Yeah, man.
Right. We're speaking with Dennis Chung. And Dennis, I've been having a series of interviews, which I'm looking at some specific sectors, COVID and beyond. But when I thought of you, I said, but hold on. Technically, this man's an accountant, but every sector of business, you are involved with so many sectors as such. How many boards are you on, Dennis? Do you know?
About five.
About five.
Yeah.
And these are, I mean, I know for sure the solid waste, because that's a critical.
Yeah.
Are you still on with the tire company? Are you still involved with that?
Which one?
Tire? Is it the
No, man. I came off that a long time ago.
Okay, so what are the others?
GK Capital Management.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on JFF, Jamaica Football Federation.
Oh.
Yeah. I just resigned from National Integrity Action.
Okay.
And I'm on the Pension Industry Association.
Oh yes, I saw a discussion with that one. So that you really span a variety of industries, and you have a firm grasp of how business run or business should run. You went to Jamaica College, I understand.
Yes.
What is it you wanted to be when you were at JC?
I wanted to be an accountant, you know.
You serious?
Yes. My father was an accountant.
Yes.
And I wanted to be an accountant.
Yes. I met your dad some time ago. So that you want to be like that, yeah? And you went straight into that.
I actually was very good at accounting from high school. So I wanted to be an accountant. In fact, when I was in third form, my father carried me up to the university in third form. I was 13, and said, "This is where you're coming to do your bachelor's and master's after you graduate high school."
So he made it quite clear.
Yeah, and I went straight from sixth form to do my first degree, and from my first degree I went to do my master's, and then from my master's I went to do my CPA.
So it was, it was just a straight road, and no regrets, huh?
Yeah. No regrets.
Okay, all right. Let's start with COVID personally first, and then professionally. How has COVID impacted you personally?
It has impacted me, you know. Personally, I am someone like him who I am not. People call me an introvert because I don't go out a lot. My life surrounds being at home, riding my bicycle, and going to work. And COVID has not impacted me in any way. I mean, the group rides are cut out. We've just started them back. But I use the time to actually do some training indoors, and I'm actually riding much better now than I did before COVID.
Because of the indoor training.
Yeah.
What they say about the group ride, I mean, the important thing is to not be in the slipstream.
No, in fact, that was the original thought. A new article came out now and says that there is a very low possibility of contracting COVID while you're riding.
Yes.
They said that the fact that you're in the open air, the wind breaks it up very quickly.
Oh, yeah, it's very unstable in open environments, yes.
Right, and because of the heat also.
Yes.
Right, it does not last long. So the time that you're most susceptible to the virus is when you're gathering at the start and at the end, when you're together.
I can imagine, especially the end of one of those long rides and everybody feeling so great, and the camaraderie and so on.
Yeah. So it hasn't really impacted me. I mean, I am typically in bed by about 9-10 o'clock anyway. So the curfew has impacted me. I mean, if the entertainment industry is waiting on me to make money. They will never make any
No,
money.
nothing offer you, huh? All right.
No.
What about now, if we switch it now to professionally, how was it impacted
Yeah.
you professionally?
Well, it has caused you to rethink a lot of things. So the whole work from home thing, when I speak to where I am now, Supreme Ventures, we were actually implementing it before COVID. So we were actually on a path already, setting up our infrastructure and moving people towards work from home. So all
Yes.
COVID did was accelerate it, right? So it actually helped us from that point of view. There are other aspects of the business, though, that were closed down. I mean, most of the business was closed down because of the curfew, the fact that bars were closed, the horse racing was closed down. So all of that did impact in that way. Like any other business, we would
Yes.
have seen a downturn in business because most of the business was actually closed because of the impact of the curfew. I don't think there's any business that has escaped from it.
Has Lotto been impacted? The lottery in
It
general?
was impacted. Yes, it was impacted. I mean, the fact that you have less hours, a lot of the establishments were closed. When St. Catherine was closed, you have less hours. So people no longer, when we had the curfew at like 6 o'clock, it means that people could not sell beyond that,
I
right?
see.
Yeah, so people were leaving early. People were leaving from 4 o'clock to
Well, I
meet
tell
the
you,
6 o'clock.
I have contributed less to the coffers of the Supreme Ventures, because I still feel a need to contribute because I won something like $26,000 the first week that
Okay.
the first week that Cashpot came on stream,
Yeah.
so I feel I need to put something back,
Yeah.
So
But in the other aspects also, from an NSWMA point of view, NSWMA has not changed anything. Everybody still go to work the same way. The sanitation workers are out there collecting. They have not changed anything. What we did, however, at NSWMA is that when we heard about the virus in January, we started the planning and putting the protocol in place from January at
yes.
NSWMA. So we were very prepared by the time it came around to March because we had everything spelled out in terms of how we were going to operate. The board started talking about it from that time. So we were not really impacted. As a matter of fact, the COVID actually helped the NSWMA because with less traffic on the road, we were able to move
Yes,
around much quicker.
quite effectively. And to tell you
Yeah.
the truth, I've been seeing them on a regular schedule. In prior to this, there'll be some times once a week or once every 2 weeks, but they're on schedule now.
Yeah, because a big part of the problem is the traffic.
Yes.
So even though you might have the capacity to go out there and collect, because of the traffic, the truck is spending more time in the traffic and doesn't get to go to the destination as quickly. So that is a huge problem.
All right. Now we're moving to this next phase where the work from home is now being rescinded or generally opened up. And I've been reading various things by you in terms of your views on lockdown versus open and strategically. So where do you see things now and heading in the short to medium term? Or what should we be doing?
I think that we are not going to have a choice but to reopen the economy. And I think we're going to get back to where we were pretty quickly in terms of the economy, because what is going to drive it is a desire of people to earn an income. And a significant part of our economy is informal. And I mean, you see, worldwide, I mean, what's happening in the US now with the riots, you cannot suppress the natural inclination that someone has. The natural inclination that someone has is for justice and to eat. And you can't suppress them. The fact of the matter also is that the government and governments around the world are much weaker now because they have less resources, because they have to spend it on dealing with what we call the first wave.
Yes.
Now, when I go around and look in the communities in Jamaica, there are a lot of people who have been significantly hurt by the curfew and the lockdown, the partial lockdown that we had, because many people in Jamaica hustle in the day and eat at night based on what they hustle in the day. And you're not going to be able to keep people in that condition for any time. I mean, if you look in St. Catherine, for example, when you let people out to go and buy food on the shopping days, you saw the crowd that it created. No one can create that. And one of the things that the US is learning, and many countries before has learned, is that law and order exists because most people are compliant. It does not exist because the state is strong and is enforcing it only. The primary reason why law and order exists because most people are compliant and respect the law. When you get to a point where most people say, listen, I can't bother with this, I need to go out, then law and order dissipates. And that's something that people need to understand.
A couple of African countries went the route of total lockdown, including no sale of alcohol or tobacco, and that took the people clearly revolted against that, because they were arresting hundreds of people every day until it just couldn't be sustained.
No, it's not sustainable. You cannot have law and order without most people being compliant. It's not possible. And this is...
Let's walk through some industries, because we have never really have a total lockdown, with the exception of, say, the hospitality. Now, okay, what's your view on the reopening of the borders?
I think that we need to get to the point of reopening the border. What we need to do is put some protocol in place, like testing, before people actually go to the aircraft. But the truth is that my view on the economy and the opening, including the borders, is that we need to understand what really is the problem with the virus. And the problem with the virus, in my view, is not just the virus itself, but the other conditions that cause people to get critically ill with the virus. So I think we're attacking the wrong thing. We're trying to say, let's have a lockdown. And then, as the guy from Sweden said, I was watching an interview with him, Sweden has the lockdown, right? When they were interviewing him, they said to him, why did you pursue this? He says, well, the virus is going to be with us for at least 2 years. You cannot sustain a lockdown for more than 3 months. So after you lock down for 3 months, what is your next plan? And they weren't able to answer. And he said, what you have done is you have painted yourself into a corner, right? We cannot sustain any lockdown for 3 months or more. It cannot be sustained. And we see it in the US, we see it all over. People have to come back out. So what we have done, I think, is that when the US or the UK or wherever has locked down for 3 months, thinking that by locking down, they will somehow eliminate the virus. I think that a lot of them were wasting time with the lockdown that they tried to do. I am not saying that was necessary to learn. That's why you locked down initially, because you were not aware of all the information. So you locked down initially, maybe for 2 weeks or so, to learn, gather information, You know, so it's like you learn to launch an attack on an enemy, and what you do is retreat, get all the information, and prepare for that. We never got to that stage. We never got to that stage as a world, right? All we did was pursue a path of lockdown, 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 and we're not ready, right?
Okay,
and we
but we've
spent a lot
learned
of time
certain
on it.
things. We've learned some things. We've learned some things about how it is transmitted. We have learned
Right,
about the 14-day cycle. We know
right,
something that in the early stages, it is it can be asymptomatic. But I take
yes.
issue with you about the underlying conditions now, because we can't treat obesity and heart disease and any of those things in the short run, because those things have been here for a long time and they will be here for a longer time nonetheless.
And I agree with you. I agree with you, Lakim. So that the strategy should be not to lock everyone down, but rather protect the vulnerable people. That should be the strategy, while ensuring that your economy goes ahead. One wave comes with governments having less money. How do we pay for our second wave? Has anyone considered that? The government has less money, less resources, right? And if the government does not reopen,
economies, cops don't make very good customers.
no, no. But however, what we know is that the virus causes critical illness in a minority of who is infected. We also know that the death rate from it is about 0.5 to 1% based on the last information, right? When you look at the death rate in the US, what they have done is compare the death rate over the amount of cases they have uncovered. But it is said that the number of cases is maybe 10 to 15 times more because of the asymptomatic, right?
Exactly.
So what they should be doing is that they should be looking for the vulnerabilities. Who are the people who are dying from it? And protect those people. Because what has happened is that they have, because of how they have pursued it, they're not giving the right information, right? Because they're contradicted themselves many times. Should I wear a mask? Shouldn't I wear a mask? How quick spread? The question, Lakim, I have is, how many people have died because of improper information? That's another thing to consider, you know.
Yes.
How many people have died because of incorrect information? So at the end of the day, at the end of the 3 months, we have information that is not solid. We have we have a weak economy, a weak social infrastructure. We still have the virus. 30 million people in the US have lost jobs, right? Some of them not coming back, or a significant amount of them. Crime is going to go up, and we still have the virus. How are we in a position to deal with it now?
Let's look at some specific aspect of this thing. Let's start with hospitality, tourism.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
I think that is not gonna fully come back until maybe about next year. What is gonna be the biggest threat to that is the fear of people. So this is why it's important for us to take a practical approach to it and give people information that we can use to go on with our lives. So from my perspective, Lakim, if someone is attacking your house, you don't run and leave it, which is what the world has done. To get to a point, achieve certain things, and people just get up and leave it. People have just retreated from what they have worked for, right? And I think that fear is driven by the reporting and also the lack of leadership of governments worldwide. And until we can...
Let's stay with tourism for a while, hospitality. Yeah. Now, the question now, would you get on a plane, do you have any inclination to go to a vacation, go on vacation now, someplace exotic that you have to fly to?
No, I don't, because I need to know what is the protocol that's in place. And I need to know also that I can get back to this country, right? So I don't, right? No, I'm saying that that is the plan that needs to be put in place, and information needs to be solidly put out to people so that people can protect themselves, because that's what it comes down to.
No, again, both sides question, because if you go on vacation, can you get back home? So even Jamaican opens up and somebody comes here, can they get back to their home? Because of the 14, the concept of the 14-day quarantine is fairly universal now.
Right. You know, and that's the other thing too, you know, because as I said about protocols, if you go to another country, now anyway, you might go into a quarantine for 14 days when your vacation is 7 days.
Correct.
So, and that's why I say until they work out all of those things, tourism or hospitality will not come back. And therefore, I don't see it until next year because of the fear, the various types of fear that exists out there.
But a couple of days ago on Twitter, the US Embassy posted flights to and from American cities to Kingston and Montego Bay starting this week. Do they know something the rest of Jamaica doesn't know?
Well, they can start the flights, you know, but how many people are going to get on the flights?
Yes.
So I think they start the flights, see what happens, but I don't see that tourism is going to come back to where it was before next year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that. Remember also that 30 million people are out of jobs, you know. So there's not just the fear, but there's the uncertainty of their economic future.
So to take your money and go buy a vacation when you're not sure what's down the road.
How you going to eat? Yeah, you're not sure how you're going to eat.
Okay. We are reopening, not that our economy was really closed. Some sectors more so, for example, the corner bars and a lot of the entertainment, because three things are clear. I think there's no dispute about that. It is masks are useful in terms of the spread. Social distancing is useful. Mm-hmm. And also the level of the dispersion factor, that long periods of time indoors with large numbers of people, there's a greater risk as opposed to outdoors where the air is blowing freely and less dense, all right? Taking those factors into consideration now, how do we reopen the sectors of the economy that was closed?
Well, you open them by considering, for example, that. So there are certain restaurants and entertainment things that happen outside, right? Those things I think will be the first things to come on. But it's going to be very important to open bars, to open restaurants, and to open back entertainment, because the economy depends significantly on it, right? So you have to do it in that way, in terms of a step-by-step thing. It's going to be very difficult to open establishments in an enclosed environment until we have more information, right? I think that you're going to find that getting to that point, even if you're open in an enclosed environment, people are still going to be fearful, right? But you have to start with the outdoor things first, and then you get to the indoor things. But there are some places that are actually starting to open back up to people, right? And they're practicing their own protocols in terms of distancing. I mean, when work starts back on tomorrow also, and more people are coming back to work, the risk of the infection in the enclosed environment is there also. So, you know, I mean, if you're going to do it for work, then what's the difference with doing it for a restaurant?
There's a radical suggestion made by Professor Yuri Alon from Israel. It came out yesterday. It was made public yesterday on a TED talk, and he's proposed a number of companies and countries have taken it on, in that you open 4 days and you're off 10, because he says it's a way to trick the virus. Let's say anywhere within the 4 days, you should contract the virus. Then it is least contagious in that time, and you have time to monitor it, because the next 10 days, you should be home. Now, a workplace he's suggesting that could actually divide their staff in such a way that, for 4 days, you work longer shifts, but then you're going to be off at 10, because during that time, anyone who should contract the virus, you're trying to keep the R0 score below 1. Those people can be dealt with, and you'll know for sure what is happening. And really, you open the economy, things are running, but the crowding in the workplace, let's take a factory for that matter. You have this, you run 3 shifts or whatever you need to do so as to reduce the amount of people who are congregating, and then you have time to still monitor the potential spread. So that's the other kind of thinking that's taking place, that as you open, it's not just perhaps open everything and just hope for the best, but you are in a position that if something happens, because remember, people still have to get to work on public transportation to a large extent.
Yeah.
And there's no social distancing on that, even though we talk about people wearing masks and so on. So the potential, any enclosed area with concentrated number of people is still a primary area for the infection.
That sounds like controlled herd immunity.
Yes.
The fact of the matter, and I don't think it could work, because production cycles don't work like that. Production cycles have to be consistent, right? It's going to be very difficult to work 4 days and off 10, then 4 days and off 10. It's not going to, and this is one of the issues with the solutions that we've had. The world has been pushing solutions based on a health perspective, and there has not been a lot of consideration in terms of the health solutions to the economic and social realities also. So my personal view is that most people will get this virus. And what the plan needs to be is for us to control the number of critically ill below the capacity of the hospital, right? The hospital. So in other words, if the hospital can hold 300 people, keep it at about 200 at all times average who are there, right? Because you're not going to be able to stop this thing. I guarantee you, people are going to get it. This thing is like the flu. Well, it is the flu, a variant of the flu, right? And I don't know if we can stop something like this. We have not been able to stop the flu virus ever. We have things to control it, right? We have things to deal with symptoms. Most people get it, and most people are fine. Some people die every year from it, right? But what we've been able to do is protect people who are most vulnerable. And that, I think, needs to be the strategy. And that's what we need to focus our efforts on. How do we coexist with this? How do we coexist and at the same time ensure that production and the economy continues? Because if, let us say we shut down, the consequence, one of the consequences of that we have to live with is a thing called hunger. And many people, I can guarantee you, prefer to take the risk with the virus and hunger.
Yes.
Hunger is an immediate problem, right? And when you as a mother have children looking at you and they're hungry, right? What are you going to do? You are going to go and take your risk with the virus to feed them.
Okay,
right?
So the corner bars, you'd open them as soon as possible?
The what?
Corner bars.
Yeah, I think those things are going to have to open up. I mean, the informal economy that depends on those things are too huge. I mean, the problem, Lakim, is that when you think about a man who goes to work from 9 to 5 and he just goes straight home, if everybody does that, there's no multiplier effect of that money,
No, so that you do. You go straight
Yeah,
home.
that's why I said it can't depend on me. But
Yes,
I put money on bicycle. So
yes.
But that the economy works when that man going home, stop at a bar, have a drink, buy a drink for a girl, give her a little money, and she go home and take care of her children, or stop and go to a dance.
Yes.
And the
Okay.
people stay at the dance.
The entertainment? I know that when dance keep, there's a whole host of people who eat food, from the soup man, the corn man, the dressmaker, the barber, all the way around. So then, what time frame would you have to bring that back online?
I think that might start coming back in about a month, 2 months. I mean, people are actually starting to take advantage of the gathering, So people are actually gathering now in groups of less than 10,
Yes.
So you see, come back to my original point, Dakin. You cannot go against the natural inclination of man. Man is a social animal.
Yes.
And man will congregate.
So again, what about the curfew? Would you lift the curfew?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would, after a while, a curfew does not have the intended impact, because people will adapt and find new ways of doing the things that you're trying to prevent them from doing. So after a while, the curfew will not have the impact, right, that you want it to have, because people are going to find ways of doing things. And I think the natural tendency of people is to move towards socialization. And this is why I think that the virus will affect most people eventually, right? And if you offer people solutions that are impractical, then you're not going to be able to sustain. You know that, Lakin. I mean, you're a psychologist, and if you tell a child not to do something that naturally they want to do, they're just going to do it behind your back.
Well, you see, again, I hear you, Dennis, but I'm still trying to look at that gap between the health factor and the economic factor, and see how we can find a way to coexist. Now,
but let me tell you how you find that balance, Lakin. And this is how economies and societies have worked for years. Government cannot put in place restrictions on people that people don't want. What we need to do is feed people with information to arm them to take the decisions in their best interests. That is how this thing works, right? So the best way to influence somebody is not to tell them what to do, but to convince them what to do. And that is what we need to do. And what governments have been doing around the world is saying, listen, you need to stay home. So one of the points I have, Lakin, if this virus is here with us for 2 years, and someone is 75 or older, and they would have had maybe a year and a half to live on top of that 75 and over, you're going to tell them to stay home for the rest of their lives? That's what people are being told, People are being told, stay home and die at home. Because people at certain age, they would have maybe passed anyway.
So, no, what it sounds kind of like callous. What you're saying, stay home
and die of,
hold on, stay home and die of hunger, as opposed to go a road and die of COVID.
Yeah, that's a choice that people face, which is why I said that we're attacking it the wrong way. Yes. We have to find strategies to coexist with it while allowing man to naturally do what he wants to do, right? A government for example, like the Jamaican government, we don't have money to pay people to stay home. So how are you going to tell a man, stay home, right? And this is why the government has not taken that stance, like what happened in New York. Because even in the US cannot sustain that. You can't tell a man that I don't want you going out on the road, but at the same time, you can't feed him.
What I've said, you can't lock down a community if you're not prepared to feed the community yourself.
Exactly.
And so that people are going to have to find a way to whatever they're hustling. And there's a significant portion of the Jamaican economy, as you have said, that's informal. It is daily hustlings that provide the money going around that people can eat on a daily. Now, question, do you see the potential for some large community spread in areas that we have just been describing, where social distance is not taking place, quarantine is not taking place, businesses, they're trying to go on as usual? Do you see the potential for some large-scale community spread taking place as we open up more?
It does exist, but I'll give you this information. Como said a few weeks ago that 66% of the new cases were from people who were at home.
But you have to add to that, though. Remember that there are people who are going out and bringing it back home. So it didn't just come in from space. People who are at home, and those who are going out bring it home. Or the delivery man who delivering stuff to them.
Yes, but the point, Lakim, is that is the same situation we face here, or even worse.
Yes.
Because people have to go out and to go buy food, or the delivery man. So the community spread possibility exists because of all of those things. What I know, though, is that when you look at many of our inner cities, as someone said to me the other day, when those people social distance is when they're on the street. They can't social distance at home because so many people live in the yard.
Yes.
Some of them sleep on shift because it's one bed they have for 5 people.
Yes, yes.
So how are you going to apply a lockdown in that situation? How are you going to avoid that? What we know also is that the virus seems to affect people critically who are vitamin D deficient. And that is why I think that the colder states and the colder countries are the ones who really feel it. Because we haven't seen a big thing in terms of death in Africa or the Caribbean, right? Or the southern states. It is in northern states and the colder countries. So the vitamin D, I think, plays a role. What we also know is that not many countries have the same mass transit thing like New York, right? And that, I think, cause a problem, right? We in Jamaica also, our people are very resilient, as my idiot NSO may say. The amount of virus that our sanitation workers face every day, right? It's highly unlikely. Yeah, right? So it is impractical to talk about people in the inner cities staying home and social distancing.
You know, I have a theory, Dennis, that because we have there are people who contract the virus, but by the way, it is not just the virus being contracted, it's the virus load. So that if it's a small load, because it's an outdoor kind of thing and so on, the body has immune systems that can literally fight it and win.
Yes.
It's when it's the dosage, the virus load is significant that the immune system is overridden. I'm even of a conjecture that small virus load that the immune system fights, it is possible that those are building antibodies.
Of course.
That stresses the person against even larger virus loads.
Yes, yes, yes. And this is why the herd immunity thing, right, is actually where we're going to go. whether you choose to go there or deliberately or not, the fact that the virus is going to be around, that is where you're going to go with it. That's where we're going to end up. Everyone is going to end up there.
So it is your feeling that we're getting there. The caution was necessary, but nonetheless, we're getting there and we will be better off for it?
Yes, I think we'll be better off. And I think Jamaica will be fine. I mean, the fact of the matter is that if we were going to see a major outbreak in Jamaica, I mean, our inner cities would have been the prime place for that. And we haven't seen that. Most of our cases have been imported, right? We saw the situation in Alarica because of the enclosed environment, right?
Yes.
And we know that. So therefore, what we need to do is take the information that we have and process all of that together and put plans in place, right? Put strategies in place, right? That is what we should be talking about.
Okay, one last area on business. It is my understanding that what this is also showing us is that we're on a transition to the fifth industrial age, one dominated by those who can work anywhere from anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing happening now. And some companies, as you mentioned, in terms of a portion of the people can do that. Some jobs can't do that. Now, I have taken my company totally online, meaning that we do everything from, as you can see, I'm in my office and I do everything from here. Now, certain jobs can't do that. So there are persons who are able to work anywhere from everywhere. It doesn't matter what they do. But the jobs that you can't do, you have to physically go somewhere in order for you to earn a living. Just as when we shift from muscle to machines, some people got left behind. When we shift to the digital age, some got left behind. When we shift to artificial intelligence, some got left behind. Now, I think there's some who will get left behind who are not able to make this further transition to work that can be done anywhere from everywhere.
Yeah, and that's true. And in addition to that, there are a lot of people who are not equipped from a knowledge point of view to do it also.
Yes.
And so therefore, what you're looking at, is you're going to be looking at big permanent unemployment numbers because a lot of people are not equipped to do it. The fact also in our case where we have this huge informal economy, right, that is going to impact. But I agree with you. It's going to be a challenge. It's something that we're going to need to wrap our heads around. There are certain sectors that might go,
But it's again, when I raised the question about our survival of the death of sugar, banana, and bauxite, and the sugar man said, but oh no, who says sugar is dead? And I reminded him that in 1965, we were the leading sugar producer. And at one point, we dominated world sugar production. At one point, we had 160 sugar factories. Now we have less than 5. Now, sugar is trying to struggle to find a little place. You remember when the 807 garment thing was the big, and people bemoaned it, but then, all right, something else came along. So should we be thinking about another way of doing tourism? Should we be thinking of how do we to have so much of our national economy on one number? I mean, just think of the cash pot. If somebody play one number every day, the same number every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't encourage that.
Yeah. It is a challenge. It is going to be a challenge. We definitely need to see how much you can diversify the economy, and certainly in terms of the knowledge industry, we were trying to move in that direction, but our bureaucracy and our fiscal policy, I think, does not encourage it enough. Tourism is always going to be the number one because we have a comparative advantage in that sector. Right, so internationally, that's where our comparative advantage is.
Well, in closing, let me just share one other thing with you then. The business of tertiary education is going to take a big hit in Jamaica.
Yeah.
My prediction. Why? All the major universities, starting with Harvard, is going to go, their online capability now will be unleashed. All the major universities will now team up with the digital, the online, the Googles and the Facebook and so on, to come out with some awesome cost-effective products, whereby our tertiary institutions will not be able to in any way offer a product at the price point that they will.
Yeah.
I saw a memo from UWI last week that gave a little roundabout explanation why they're going to drop the entrance requirement.
Yeah.
They're going to lower the entrance requirement. Now, my prediction is that within the next 5 years, more and more people will be taking online degrees from universities that they only dreamt about years ago. And unless our local institutions can provide a product at a price to compete with some of these other places, they too are going to get a beating.
No, definitely getting a beating. I think that you're right, Lakim. All of those places are going to suffer. UA, UTech, all the institutions that are not like the Harvards, the Princeton, because naturally people are going to want to go to those.
The brand name.
Right? Yeah, people are going to want to go to the brand name ones, right? And they're going to take a beating for it. They're definitely going to take a beating. Now, you realize what you're saying also is that COVID is going to cause monopolies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's a kind of monopoly that, but guess what? Like any business, as the entry requirement drops, as the barrier for entry drops, you're going to have more contenders, right?
Yeah.
But it will not, even though you'll have monopolies, but it will not be a kind of monopoly that locks people out. Someone who has the capacity to come up with a niche product can contend, because look, they can buy satellite time, they can go online. Look at what we're doing here now. I'm having a conversation with you from where you are to where I am. I'm doing this on Zoom. Then we're going to take it in-house and edit and package it. And then we're going to release it on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. What's the cost of that production? Prior to now, we've been doing a 2-camera, we need a studio for shooting this. Now I'm going back and forth with a 2-camera switch. Every time you talk, you come up on the screen. Every time I talk, I talk. So that we have eliminated the cameraman. We have eliminated the videographer. So that a whole section of the production process has been eliminated. My assistant will just sit behind her computer and she will do the post-production edits. And tomorrow midday, this product can be released.
Yeah. So you realize that a lot of media giants are not going to be anymore.
Absolutely. So I'm saying that fifth industrial age is here, so that the things we have to tell our children about how we do things, how you package yourself, how you create other streams of income. And for me, the single most important, the major winner, those who can work anywhere from anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different situation now you're looking at. But what it means is that there's going to be a critical amount of people who are going to be left out.
Yes. Dennis, great talking to you as usual. We've been having conversations for years, my brother. And I think we should do this again another couple of weeks or so, and as more data become available. And then we can see, because this is part of the public education process. We package these things, we reason it out, and we share it to the people so they can, I saw it go. Thanks, my brother. You take care.
Yeah, man. All right, Dakin. Thanks. Okay.
Conversation with Dennis Chung.